Slap Tech.
This is the Lenovo Slim 3. I got it at Costco for under $600, and it's called the 3X because it has a Snapdragon X CPU in it as opposed to an AMD or Intel CPU. The Snapdragon X lineup consists of this CPU and the Plus and Elite versions, which have better performance. We'll see in this review what the bottom tier of this CPU line can offer, including a quick analysis of the integrated Adreno GPU. The rest of the bits are very competent with 16 gigs of RAM, plenty for multitasking, games, and hobbyist chores, and 1 terabyte of storage, which is more than enough space for most PC users. These bits sit underneath a 15.3-inch matte IPS display and are powered by a 60 watt-hour battery, which is nice. And it all weighs a very manageable 3.5 pounds. The AC adapter that comes in the box is a compact 65-watt unit with a 6-foot cord that uses a proprietary barrel connector. It gathers wall juice with a standard 3-prong cord that stretches 3 feet out of the box and can be upgraded with an aftermarket cord, which I would highly recommend. Also, this notebook will drink wall juice from any USB-C adapter, though it does take up the only USB-C port. The battery life of this medium-sized notebook is quite sizable. Normally, a 16-inch class device will be begging for a charge after 4 or 5 hours of regular use, but this laptop will last through internet work use for 14 hours and 30 minutes, streaming video for 12 hours and 30 minutes, 2D retro gaming for 14 hours and 30 minutes, and PC gaming for 3 hours and 30 minutes. As for 3D retro gaming, well, we'll talk about that later. What's missing from Lenovo's more premium SKUs is the ability to set a charge threshold in order to maximize the battery's lifespan. It's always a good idea to keep the battery charged between 40 and 80% and to always be plugged in while performing intensive tasks or gaming. The build quality of the Slim 3X is remarkably generous. The back of the display and around the keyboard are covered in aluminum with a plastic bottom plate. Though it is aluminum, it is still quite bendy compared to similarly equipped smaller laptops that don't have to argue with physics. There's a good amount of give to the chassis, and it feels like I could easily warp it if I twist too much. Likewise, the display contorts easily and wobbles a little bit when typing on your lap. The sacrifice in sturdiness allows it to shed quite a bit of weight, and while it's not tossable, lugging it around is no problem whatsoever. That being said, the abnormal size of 15.3 inches hits most of the same notes as 16 inches and shies further away from 14-inch laptops. As for fingerprints, the gray aluminum body mutes most signs of use, but doesn't hide it entirely. Overall, this is a quality mid-market build that delivers as expected and doesn't try to punch above its weight while putting more skill points in lower weight than rigidity. Let's see what all those holes in the side do. On the right is the factory reset button, don't touch that, the power button, full-sized SD card reader, and a USB-A 3.2 Gen 1. The left gives us the power hole, a second USB-A 3.2 Gen 1 for a total of 2 standard USBs, HDMI 1.4, USB-C 3.2 Gen 1 that can take a charge and output DisplayPort 1.2, and headset in. 2 standard USBs is fine, though I do typically see a third on notebooks of this size, but I immediately forgive it for that sin because of the full-sized SD card reader, which is sorely missed on a growing number of laptops these days. This style of power button has caused some grief in other Lenovo laptop lines for breaking easily. I think that's why the Slim 3X is configured out of the box to turn on by opening the lid. Keep in mind that this device can only output DisplayPort 1.2 and HDMI 1.4, which is behind the competition that uses AMD and Intel CPUs. What that means in the real world is that this tiny ThinkPad with an Intel CPU from 4 years ago can output full resolution to this egregiously large gaming monitor at the full 165Hz, whereas our review notebook can only output full resolution at 120Hz. Oh damn, what a travesty. A special T5 screwdriver is required to access this notebook's guts, and I'll leave a link to an appropriate toolkit in the description. Inside we can see that the motherboard is tiny, like smaller than most 14-inch laptops' motherboards. This small size is thanks to soldered memory, so there's no upgrade path there, but there is an extra M.2 slot for another storage drive. Not any storage drive will do though, only a shorter 2242 drive will work in both slots, not a normal 2280 size, so proceed with caution when shopping for an extra NVMe drive. Other than that, there's a lot of empty space, isn't there? Especially for a third USB-A or second USB-C port, but alas, Lenovo cheaped out on us. The cooling infrastructure is quite normal with a large laptop fan, which is weird in this case because the Snapdragon CPU doesn't need a lot of cooling. In another weird decision, the Wi-Fi card is serviceable and can be replaced. These guts could easily have been shoehorned into a 14-inch body, so the fact that this all sits inside of a 15.3-inch notebook is a purposeful, strategic decision. Back on top is a keyboard. It's a full-sized with a numpad and is backlit in white with 2 stops and an automatic setting in case you can't make up your mind between the 2 brightness levels. Lenovo took no risks with this keyboard, including all of the standard hotkeys and making sure there are dedicated home and page scrolling buttons sitting on top of a numpad featuring double-wide 0, enter, and plus. Function Q also changes the power mode and Function M toggles the touchpad. The feedback is quite firm and will take some getting used to for light typists with a soft treble click. It's not librarian approved and might be a little awkward in a meeting room, but it's not loud enough to be annoying in a classroom or shared dorm room. I didn't have any issues with missed strokes while writing this script. It's not the greatest keyboard in the world, but it's very livable. The touchpad, on the other hand, kinda sucks. It gets in the way while typing, has unpredictable acceleration, and has a noisy, stiff clicking action. It's offset to the left, so it sits under the main part of the keyboard, which is a nice gesture, but results in fumbling about when looking for right-click. Speaking of right-clicking, there are random dead zones along the edge. My advice would be to use a mouse as often as possible. This notebook also has a display. There are IPS pixels in it that light up in familiar patterns, and that's about as remarkable as it gets. It's not color accurate with a clean, neutral tone that's not dull or poppy. The brightness gets a couple ticks over comfortably bright and dims down enough for a pitch black room. A pixels per inch number of 150 is more than a bit shy of the standard 200 for adequate sharpness, and the matte finish adds a little bit of blur. Fortunately, the matte finish also stamps out any hope for bothersome reflections. Being an IPS and a flurry of OLED options, there's no worry about burn-in when leaving the screen on or playing games, and motion has an average amount of ghosting. It's a touchscreen with no pen support, and bezel zealots don't have much to complain about thanks to the 16:10 aspect ratio. The whole thing tilts back about 165 degrees, which makes it easy to find a comfortable viewing angle, making up for the fact that the brightness fades at a close angle. It's a perfectly average touchscreen display that hits all the right notes and doesn't annoy in any sense. Which brings us to the speakers. Be thankful there are 2 of them. They make noise and let you hear things. They don't get loud enough to fill a room but are well balanced and don't sound too tinny or muffled and have weak bass. They're just good enough for consuming any form of media without any bothersome shortcomings, a theme that's been echoed in most of the peripherals so far. If audio is to be experienced, these speakers work. If audio is to be enjoyed, use headphones. This is a test of the webcam on the Lenovo Slim 3X 720p. This is an excellent lighting, and Windows microphone settings are at their defaults. And here's a test of the webcam with Microsoft's enhanced audio for the microphone disabled. System performance of the Snapdragon CPU has plenty of competency for any task but isn't speedy enough for demanding applications. Compatibility is another concern, a worry that users shouldn't have with Intel or AMD internals, but if your software suite is full of popular productivity and creative programs, then I wouldn't worry at all. As for the actual performance, expect something along the lines of modern Intel Core 5 CPUs. Video editing and multi-layered photoshopping is possible, but not well suited to this notebook. Keep in mind that there are Snapdragon X Plus and Elite CPUs that push out significantly more performance, and what we're working with here is the absolute bottom rung. That being the case, it's engineered to be snappy when dealing with normal stuff, which it absolutely is, and while it's at it, runs cool, very quiet, and very efficient. Overall, in terms of noise and heat, it's a strikingly more comfortable usage experience than any Intel or AMD notebook for normie PC tasks. On to gaming. A gaming notebook this ain't. Expect similar performance to Intel's Iris Xe, which is now 2 generations old and less than half the performance of modern-day ARC graphics. It won't play the latest games, and older games will still need a drastic, if not utterly complete, lack of details. It's not the end of the world if most of your library is rather old and/or indie games. Megabonk, the greatest indie game ever in no one in particular's personal opinion, and the reason why this review wasn't published 4 days earlier, runs great at reduced resolution and minimum details. My personal benchmark game, Snake Pass, crashes when trying to load a level, so Unreal Engine 4 games are a little sus. Diablo 3 from 2012 boots up and runs just fine, albeit in reduced detail, and Witcher 3, a little newer, from 2015, is playable at medium details in 720p, but does exhibit frequent stuttering. While playing PC games, it gets comfortably warm on the bottom, and the whisper-quiet fan is easily drowned out by even these subdued speakers. Retro gaming is pretty damn good, but has some major caveats. I ran into a couple problems using RetroArch, but using standalone applications, especially their ARM64 versions, proved to be much more reliable. Sure, all of the peripherals are average, but they're perfectly average, except for the battery life, which is friggin' awesome. One major setback is there isn't enough CPU grunt for a particular aquatic mammal-themed application or a particular citrus fruit-themed application, so an avid retro gamer's library is going to have to be a little truncated. But with the default terabyte of storage with plenty of expansion options, and for $500, you still got a great mobile retro box, except for its size. Given these circumstances, having a companion handheld gaming device is highly justified. For the bottom line, anyone looking for a competent, comfortable PC to tackle the ins and outs of everyday life should look no further. At regular price, this is a good deal for the battery life alone, and when on sale, it's a no-brainer. The only thing to watch out for is that pesky power button, which has proved to be unreliable in other Lenovo laptops. It also falls behind Intel and AMD devices in terms of graphics power, so if casual gaming is on your daily calendar, it doesn't need to be written off completely, but do proceed with caution. In conclusion, students get 3.5 thumbs up, mostly because of the lighter than average weight for this form factor and industry-leading battery life. The half thumb is because it can't play modern games very well, which doesn't mean it's worth half a thumb less, but actually half a thumb more, because it symbolically cuts a gamer's thumb in half, thereby increasing their GPA by at least half a point. Thank you, Lenovo Slim 3X, and your innate inability to play anything with Unreal Engine 4 or later. Casual gamers can consider it. There are a myriad other cheap laptops around of the same size and price range with dedicated GPUs like the Acer Nitro 5 and HP Victus. Think of this notebook as an appropriate respec by taking away all the extra points in graphics performance and putting them in battery life. Did I mention that this notebook has extremely long battery life? Well, it has extremely long battery life. Competitive gamers and desktop replacement seekers need not apply. It only has 16 gigs of RAM and will always have only 16 gigs of RAM. Sure, it has an extra slot for storage and an SD card reader, but with average CPU performance, it just doesn't matter. Home users, I present to you your next notebook PC, because I already told my grandmother-in-law to buy one, and if it's not good enough for a grandmother-in-law of an amateur YouTube laptop reviewer, I might as well stop making videos. This has been a review of the Lenovo Slim 3X here on Slaptech. Give it a like if you enjoyed watching it, found it informative, or think that Hershey's Cookies and Cream are S-tier candy bars. Subscribe for more random like conditions. Stay tuned for the playing games with this notebook video, because that's what I've been promising for my 2 previous reviews and have yet to deliver on both of those. Thanks for watching, and you guys, have a good night.